Hello, my name is Gail Brazo, and I'm part of the Health and Safety team with the Child Care Licensing Bureau. Today, I'll be reviewing parts 1 and 2 of the updated Center Child Care Licensing rules. These sections focus on rule number 400.8101 through rule number 400.8161. I'll provide you with an overview of the new rules and rule changes and how they may apply to your program. So let's get started. Okay. Here's some notes before we move into our presentation. In these slides, you're going to notice some clues that will help you understand the rule changes a little bit better. Each slide will have a title that indicates what's different about the rule we are reviewing. Some rules are marked as a new rule. This means it did not exist in the previous rule set and it's a brand new rule. Some are noted to have a new rule number. This means that the rule did exist in our previous rule set, but it was moved to a new section of our new rule book and given a new rule number. Some rules are marked as amended. This means that it was a previously existing rule that has been updated for clarification. And some rules have been rescinded, meaning the rule is no longer in effect. You'll also note that there's bolded wording and underlined wording that will indicate what has been added or changed as you're looking at the rule. The law requires that we review and update our rules every 5 years. So how were these rules updated and changed? We held 63 listening sessions with our stakeholders. Our stakeholders include child care providers, community partners, and state partners. We also held regional meetings with consultants. And many of our new rules were actually brought in from our existing technical assistance manual in order to provide more clarity. As you're looking at the rules, you'll note that there's a new format. The order of our rules were changed in order to be more user-friendly and to make it easier for you to find rules that are related to specific topics. The new order is Part 1, Definitions, Licensing Process and Procedures. Part 2, Space and Equipment. Part 3, Staffing. Part 4, General Health and Safety. Part 5, Program and Care. Part 6, Food Services and Nutrition. Part 7, School-Age Child Care Center Specific Provisions and Exemptions. Part 8, Fire Safety. Part 9, Transportation. And Part 10, Swimming. So let's move into Part 1 and look at definitions, the licensing process, and procedures. Rule 8101, which covers definitions, subrule G, is center. You'll note that we've always used the word center in previous rules and in our law. We've brought in a definition for clarification into our new rule set. A center means an early childhood center, a school-age child care center, an outdoor nature-based child care center, or a small capacity child care center. So you'll see there's many different types of centers, and we're going to define each one of those. Subrule V defines early childhood center, which means a child care center that serves children who are less than 13 years of age. It does not include a school-age child care center, an outdoor nature-based child care center, or a small capacity child care center. Continuing on with our new center terms, school-age child care center means a child care center serving only school-age children. Small capacity center means a childcare center that receives 20 or fewer children who are less than 13 years of age. And finally, an outdoor nature-based childcare center means a childcare center that does all of the following: serves preschool and school-age children, provides early learning services to the enrolled children in an outdoor natural space approved by the department for not less than 4 hours per day or 50% of the daily program hours, whichever is less. And it may operate in an approved building during inclement weather. And it also teaches a nature-based curriculum to enrolled children. So we've defined all of our different types of centers. We're going to move on and talk about childcare administration. In this term, we're looking at coursework. So childcare administration means educational courses in childcare administration, education administration, educational leadership, or business administration. So what was changed about this definition is we added educational leadership as an option for childcare administration courses. Continuing on with our definitions, child-related field means either of the following. And you can see again, this slide has bolded and underlined terms just to let you know what has changed. So for an early childhood program administrator and lead teacher, you'll note those are new terms. So that's why this has been amended to use our new terms, which we're going to be talking about more as we move on. Academic courses in elementary education, child guidance, child counseling, child psychology, family studies, environmental or outdoor education, social work, or special education. So environmental or outdoor education was added as an option for academic courses that program administrators and lead teachers can count. Next, for a school-age program administrator, again, that term was just updated. Academic courses in early childhood education, elementary education, secondary education, educational leadership, special education, physical education and recreation, child development, child guidance, child counseling, child psychology, family studies, environmental or outdoor education, social work, human services, or youth development. So again, the term was updated to school-age program administrator, and educational leadership was added as an option for educational requirements. Now looking at early childhood program administrator, this means a child care staff member who is the program administrator of an early childhood center and can be counted in child staff member to child ratios. This was previously known as a program director. Moving on to Rule 8102, lead teacher has been updated from lead caregiver. And it means a child care staff member employed by the Child Care Center for Compensation who is responsible for organizing, guiding, and implementing activities in a group or individual basis to further the cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development of children in the Child Care Center and can be counted in child care staff member to child ratios. 8103, Subrule D, a school-age program administrator, which was previously known as a director, means a child care staff member who is the program administrator of a school-age child care center and can be counted in the child care staff member ratios. 8102, Subrule P, Program administrator, previously the program director, means a licensee or child care staff member who is responsible for the general management of the center, ensures compliance with the act and these rules, and then this last section that is bolded was added, and can be counted in child care staff member to child ratios. Program administrators include an early childhood program administrator, a school age program administrator, and a small capacity center program administrator. (8103) Subrule G, Site Administrator, was previously known as a Site Supervisor. This is only used when a program administrator oversees multiple sites. So a site administrator means a child care staff member appointed by the program administrator who is responsible for supervising the operation of the center when the program administrator is not on the center premises and can be counted in child care staff member to child ratios. Rule 8103 is a new term, staff in charge. Again, this is something that we did use in our previous rules, but now we brought in a definition for clarification. Staff in charge means a child care staff member appointed by a program administrator of a single site when the program administrator is not on the premises and is responsible for supervising the operation of the center, including but not limited to having the authority to respond to emergencies, inspections, parental concerns, and have access to all required information. Independent service provider. This is also a new term. Independent service provider means individuals who are not child care staff members, but render professional, therapeutic, or enrichment services within a child care center. Independent service providers include, but are not limited to, dance instructors, gymnastic or sports instructors, computer instructors, speech therapists, nutritionists, early interventionists, nurses, and other licensed healthcare professionals, intermediate school staff, district staff, local school districts staff, departmental staff other than those responsible for inspecting centers, non-center affiliated bus drivers, cafeteria and maintenance personnel, electricians, plumbers, photographers, and other outside service providers. Independent service providers are not considered contract employees or self-employed as described in the Act, as long as the independent service providers are supervised at all times by an eligible child care staff member while at the child care center when children are present. (8103) Subrule O, therapeutic professionals, is also a new definition, and it means an independent service provider who provides therapeutic services in a child care center, including, but not limited to, speech therapists, nutritionists, early interventionists, nurses, and other licensed healthcare professionals who are employed by an intermediate school district or local school district to provide services in a child care center to a child with a disability that has an active individualized education program or individualized family service program. So that's regarding an IEP or an IFSP. (8102) Subrule B, also a new definition, mandated reporter. Again, we've heard the term mandated reporter and we have used it previously, but we've brought in a definition for clarity. This means a licensee designee, staff, or volunteer who are required to immediately report child abuse or neglect or suspected child abuse and neglect as required by Rule 8213, Subrule 1C. Rule 8102, this was given a new rule number and amended. So natural playground means an outdoor play area that blends natural materials, features, and vegetation. And you'll see the bolded wording which was also added, which can include tree logs, tree stumps, boulders, and plants. 8102, these are also new terms. Nighttime care means care between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. On file means accessible at the center or central office as specified in these rules via a hard copy or electronically, unless otherwise stipulated in the rule. And present at the center means being physically at the center at any point when children are present. (8102) Subrule R, also a new definition, program staff, means a teacher, lead teacher, substitute teacher, site administrator, staff in charge, program administrator, substitute program administrator, or other compensated employee of the center that has direct contact with children and can be counted in child care staff member to child ratios. Program staff does not include volunteers, therapeutic professionals, or independent service providers. (8103) Subrule I, staff, was amended. So staff means any compensated employee of a center that performs services for the child care center and has direct or indirect contact with children at the center. Staff includes the program administrator, substitute program administrator, site administrator, staff in charge, lead teacher, teacher, substitute cook, and other paid employees at the center, such as the cook, driver, janitor, secretary, and bookkeeper. Staff does not include volunteers, therapeutic professionals, or independent service providers. (8103) Subrule L, substitute teacher, means a child care staff member who is 16 years of age or older and is employed by the child care center directly or indirectly for compensation as a temporary replacement for a teacher and can be counted in child care staff member to child ratios. Rule 8103, Subrule N, teacher, means a child care staff member who is 16 years of age or older and is employed by the child care center for compensation to further the cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development of children in child care centers and can be counted in child care staff member to child ratios. Rule 8103, new rule Q, volunteer, means a supervised volunteer and an unsupervised volunteer. M was amended. A supervised volunteer means a child care staff member who is 16 years of age or older, who provides service for the child care center that is not compensated, and who is supervised at all times when children are in care. A supervised volunteer cannot be counted in child staff member to child ratios. P, unsupervised volunteer, was also amended. This means a child care staff member who is 16 years of age or older, who provides service for a child care center that is not compensated, who has been determined eligible by the department to be unsupervised with children and can be counted in child care staff member to child ratios. So we have clarified who can be counted in ratios and who cannot. A supervised volunteer cannot be counted in child care staff member to child ratios, but an unsupervised volunteer can. Rule 8103, Subrule F, session, is a new rule, and it means 8 hours within a 24-hour day from midnight till 11:59 p.m. for centers operating 8 hours or more during the day, or 50% of the time open for centers operating less than 8 hours a day. So we'll talk more about sessions as we go into staffing and when they need to be on site and present. So here's some examples just to clarify what a session means depending on how long a program runs for. If a center is open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., a program administrator would need to be there for 8 hours within this time frame. If a center is open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., then a program administrator would only need to be there for at least 3 hours within that time frame. The rule clarifies that they need to be there for 8 hours or more for centers who operate more than 8 hours. And for those who operate less than 8 hours a day, then they must be there 50% of the time. Rule 8103, Subrule E, serious injury, was amended. This means an injury that occurred while the child was in care that resulted in a child receiving medical attention by a healthcare provider. Rule 8101, Subrule N, clean, means removing dirt, food, soil, and other types of debris by scrubbing and washing with a detergent solution and rinsing with water. U, disinfect, means destroying any remaining germs on the surface after cleaning using a stronger bleach solution or an EPA-registered disinfecting product as described on the label. So clean and disinfect are completely new definitions, even though you've heard them before. One thing to keep in mind, and we will go into this further in a different section, is that when you hear clean and disinfect, that's referring to the 3-part process of cleaning, washing, rinsing, and disinfecting. So, or washing, rinsing, and sanitizing. So we're not getting rid of the 3-step process. We've just redefined the words and how we use them in the rules. 8103, Subrule A, sanitize, was amended, and it means reducing the number of germs on surfaces after cleaning the items by using heat, sanitizing solution sprays as directed on the label, or a weakened bleach solution. Now looking at standard precautions, Rule 8101, Subrule F, biocontaminant, means bodily fluids such as urine, feces, saliva, vomit, blood, nasal discharge, eye discharge, and injury or tissue discharge. And Rule 8103, Subrule K, is a new rule, standard precautions, which means the use of barriers to handle potential exposure to biocontaminants, the process to clean and disinfect contaminated surfaces, and the process to dispose of biocontaminants. Now we have gone through all of our new terms and definitions, so we're going to be looking at new rules or amended rules. Rule 8107, this is a new rule. Subrule 4 states that before the issuance of the original license and before the renewal of a license, an applicant or licensee shall comply with all applicable laws and rules. Subrule 5 states before issuance of the original license and before the renewal of a license, an applicant or licensee shall submit the certificate of occupancy. And Subrule 6 states if the school-age center is established and operated by an intermediate school board, the board of a local school district, by the board or governing body of a state-approved non-public school, or by a person or entity with whom a school contracts for services, and is located in a school building that is approved by the state fire marshal or other similar authority for school purposes, an applicant or licensee is not required to submit a certificate of occupancy at the original licensure or before the renewal of a license. Rule 8107, Subrule 7, is a new rule. Outdoor nature-based childcare centers are exempt from Subrule 5 of this rule. So that's the certificate of occupancy. Outdoor nature-based childcare centers would not be required to submit a certificate of occupancy, but the applicant or licensee shall provide both of the following before issuance of the original license and before the renewal of a license. A location map, including the location of the emergency shelter, and B, an outdoor benefit risk assessment. Rule 8110 was amended, Subrule 4, regarding the licensing notebook. And it states there must be a current licensing notebook that includes all licensing inspections and special investigation reports and corrective action plans, approval letters for the last 3 calendar years, and a summary sheet outlining the documents contained in the notebook. The notebook must always be in a place accessible to parents and prospective parents at all times during the center's normal hours of operation, or if the internet is available at the center, access may be provided through the department's electronic database of licensing records for the entity. Rule 8112 was given a new rule number and amended. Subrule 1. At the time of a child's initial attendance, a center shall obtain a child information card using a form provided by the department or a comparable substitute that is completed, signed, and dated by the child's parent and updated as changes occur. The center shall keep current hard copies of the child information cards at the center. So you can see that bolded and underlined wording was what was amended about this rule. It has eliminated the annual update, and now it states updates should be made as changes occur. And it specifies that you must have current hard copies on file at the center. Regarding immunizations, Rule 8112, also given a new rule number and amended Subrule 2. For children under school age, at the time of a child's initial attendance, a center shall document one of the following: accessed through the Michigan Care Improvement Registry or in a paper format if the parent or guardian chooses to provide to the center in that manner. So what this rule is saying is that a MICR record would be an acceptable immunization record. So Michigan Care Improvement Registry is referring to MICR. And continuing on with Rule 8112, Subrule 3, when a child under school age whose immunizations cannot be completed due to medical reasons, including but not limited to a dose waiting period, within 4 months after admittance, a child may remain enrolled for a reasonable length of time that is consistent with good medical practices. The center shall verify additional immunization requirements are current as specified by the Department of Health and Human Services, unless there is a signed medical exemption filed certifying that the child is in the process of complying with all immunization requirements. The medical exemption must be on file with the center until it can be replaced with proof that the vaccines that the exemption was granted for have been received or the medical exemption has expired. So what this is saying is that if a child is behind due to medical reasons with their vaccines, then they can have a statement from the physician explaining why the child is behind and the plan for catching up. And they can stay enrolled with that plan. And then you just need to follow up and make sure that those immunizations happen as the plan states, and the child can continue to stay enrolled. Rule 8112 continued regarding physical evaluations. Subrule 5. A record of a physical evaluation performed within the preceding 13 months after initial attendance for infants, toddlers, and preschoolers must be retained on file and made accessible in the center within 30 days after a child's initial attendance. The evaluation must note any restrictions and be signed by a physician or a physician's designee. An electronic record from a physician's office is acceptable. Subrule 6, physical evaluations must be updated every 13 months for infants and toddlers and every 2 years for preschoolers. So you can see again, the bolded and underlined wording shows you what has changed. And now we are giving, you can have the physical evaluation completed within the previous 13 months of a child's attendance for regardless of age. So infants, toddlers, and preschoolers can all be completed within the previous 13 months. And they must be updated every 13 months rather than 12 for infants and toddlers, or 2 years for preschoolers. So this helps give everyone a grace period so that if they can't get in within 12 months to update that physical due to insurance purposes or something like that, they have an extra month to get that physical completed. Rule 8112 continued school age physical evaluations. Subrule 7C. The immunization record or appropriate waiver is maintained on file either in the Michigan Care Improvement Registry, MICR, or in paper format provided by the parent at the center. For a school-age child not enrolled in public or private school, a licensed healthcare provider statement indicating the child is in the process of getting immunizations must be on file at the center. So this rule covers if a child is homeschooled as well. Rule 8112 continued, waiver for outdoor nature-based centers. Subrule 16, for outdoor nature-based childcare centers, a signed waiver by the parent that acknowledges and accepts the potential hazards and risks associated with the center must be maintained on file at the center. Now we're moving on from children's records to center records. Rule 8112A. Subrules 1 and 2 are new rules. Subrule 1 states the center shall maintain accurate records detailing daily arrival and departure times for each staff member, volunteers, therapeutic professionals, and independent service providers. And Subrule 2, the center shall designate and keep current in the manner prescribed by the department the title designations of teacher, lead teacher, site administrator, program administrator, substitute teacher, unsupervised volunteer, supervised volunteer, or other staff member for each individual working at the center. Subrule 3 is also a new rule. The records required by the Act in these rules must be retained on file at the center or at the central office as specified in the rules for a minimum of 2 calendar years or longer as specified in these rules, and made available to the department upon request. Verification of records must be conducted by reviewing the 2 previous calendar years from the current license renewal year. Rule 8113. This rule was moved and given a new rule number and amended. We're looking at sub-rule 1 of the rule. A center shall provide a handbook, electronically or hard copy, to each parent enrolling a child that includes at least all of the following. So what is required to be in the handbook hasn't changed. What has changed is that you can provide the handbook either electronically or hard copy. Now we have finished section 1 and we're going to be moving into section 2, which covers space and equipment. Rule 8121 regarding indoor space. This was also given a new rule number and amended. Sub-rule 1 states the required square footage of indoor space per child must be at least the following. Sub-rule 1A, 42 square feet for infants and toddlers. So the old rule stated 50 square feet for infants and toddlers. Now it is 42 square feet of indoor space that is required for infants and toddlers. Looking specifically at small capacity center square footage, Rule 8121. This is a new rule, sub-rule 1C, 35 square feet for small capacity centers, regardless of age. Now we're going to look at some small capacity center exemptions. So Rule 8125. Sub-rule 20, this is a new rule. Rule 8125, sub-rule 3, a center operating with children in attendance for 3 or more continuous hours a day shall have an outdoor play area that has not less than 1,200 square feet. More than 1,200 square feet of outdoor play area may be required when the minimum amount is not adequate for the number of children for which the center is licensed. Small capacity centers would be exempt from this rule. 8125 sub-rule 10, the playground equipment, use zones, and surfacing in the outdoor play area must be inspected by a certified playground safety inspector and an approval granted for playground equipment and areas used before issuance of an original license on request of the department, and before using any newly added playground equipment, the center shall provide documentation of the inspection to the department on request and keep it on file at the center. So again, this is one of the rules that exists for centers, and small capacity centers would be exempt from that rule. And finally, Rule 8125, sub-rule 11, all pieces of playground equipment that have an elevated playing or climbing surface, regardless of the height of the playing or climbing surface, must be surrounded by a shock-absorbing surface and meet the guidelines defined by the United States Consumer Products Safety Commission Handbook for Public Playground Safety. The shock-absorbing surface material may be either unitary or loose fill type. An exception to this sub-rule is provided for natural playgrounds. Again, this is a rule that has existed for centers, but small capacity centers would be exempt from this rule. Now we're going to look at new rules that are specific to outdoor play area. And small capacity centers. So these are specific rules that small capacity centers have to follow. We just reviewed the ones that they are exempt from, and now they have some that are specific to them. So sub-rule 21 of 8125 states that small capacity centers shall abide by all of the following. A, provide a clean, safe, and hazard-free outdoor play area on the premises or within a reasonable walking distance of the center. B, inspect the outdoor play areas daily before use to ensure that no hazards are present. C, the play area size must not be less than 600 square feet. D, Provide an adequate and varied supply of outdoor play equipment, materials, and furniture that meets all of the following requirements. I, appropriate to the developmental needs and interest of the children. II, appropriate to the number of children. And III, safe and in good repair. Continuing on with outdoor play areas for small capacity, 21 subrule E, the outdoor play area and equipment must be organized to meet the following requirements: to separate active and quiet activities, for a clear and unobstructed view of the whole play area, and to ensure that there are safe distances between equipment. Continuing on with subrule F, playground equipment including but not limited to swings, climbers, and slides with a designated play surface above 30 inches must meet all of the following requirements: not be placed over concrete, asphalt, or similar surface such as hard packed dirt or grass, be in safe, good repair, and age appropriate, be placed not less than 6 feet from the perimeter of other play structures or obstacles. And subrule 21G, if the playground equipment includes commercial playground equipment, the center needs a playground inspection by a certified playground safety inspector and an approval granted for playground equipment and areas used before issuance of an original license on request of the department and before using any newly added playground equipment. The center shall provide documentation of the inspection to the department upon request and keep it on file at the center. So those are all specific rules for small capacity center playgrounds. Now we're going to look at a rescinded rule, and it is Rule 8128 regarding staff and volunteer tuberculosis tests. You are no longer required to assure that staff and volunteers have a TB test on file. Rule 8131, subrule 12, is a new rule regarding teething necklaces, and it states teething necklaces, bracelets, or beads must not be used by children in care at the child care center. So this is regarding concerns about choking and strangulation. So you can use, there are other teething objects that you can use. We know that that is something that we've had a lot of questions about, but you can't use anything that would tie around a child's neck or that includes beads. So no teething necklaces, bracelets, or beads. Concerning specialized equipment, Rule 8131 is a new rule. Subrule 13 states that specialized equipment prohibited by these rules, so we just looked at teething for an example, may be used if a child has it specifically in their individualized family service plan or individualized education program, and it can only be used in the manner described in the IEP or IFSP. So if for some reason it is written into their IEP or IFSP that they need the specialized equipment, it can be used, but only in the manner that is specified in that document. Now looking at Rule 8137, which was moved and given a new rule number and amended. Subrule 3 regarding telephone services. Emergency phone numbers, including 911, fire, police, the Michigan Mental Health Hotline, and the Poison Control Center, and the facility's physical address, 2 main cross streets, must be conspicuously posted in a place visible to staff. So you can see we added the Michigan Mental Health Hotline to the required list of phone numbers. And then this last section was also added. For outdoor nature-based centers, emergency phone numbers, including 911, fire, police, and the Poison Control Center an emergency location for emergency medical services to arrive must be available to all staff at all times while in operation and caring for children. So that is specific to outdoor nature-based centers. That last section that was added in. Now we're going to talk about hand washing, sinks, and toilets. We're looking at Rule 8143, which again was moved and assigned a new rule number and amendments were made. Subrule 1 states that a center shall provide toilet and hand washing sinks as followed. A center operating with children toddler age or older in attendance less than 5 continuous hours a day shall provide at least one toilet and one hand washing sink for every 20 children toddler age or older or fraction thereof. B, a center operating with children toddler age or older in attendance 5 or more continuous hours a day shall provide at least one toilet and one hand washing sink for every 15 children toddler age or older or a fraction thereof. So regarding how many continuous hours the children are in care determines how many hand washing sinks and toilets that you need. And what was amended about these rules was the underlined and bolded with children toddler age or older. And the reason that was amended was just to clarify because infants don't use toilets. So it's just clarifying that this rule pertains to children who are toddler age or older. Rule 8143A, Subrule 1, this is a new rule and states outdoor nature-based childcare centers are exempt from Rule 400.8143. Subrule 2, outdoor nature-based childcare centers shall have access to the use of toileting facilities in a public park or nature center if the bathrooms are checked for cleanliness and safety before the children's use, and the toilets, seats, sinks, or other surfaces that children touch are cleaned and disinfected daily. Subrule 3, for the toileting options described in Subrule 2 of this rule, and to ensure successful toileting and hand washing practices, a center shall ensure children have independent access to sufficient toilets, urinals, toilet paper, hand washing equipment, and staff support. And Subrule 4, centers shall include a toileting policy in the parent handbook. So this is specific to outdoor nature-based center toilets and sinks, stating that they are exempt from the previous rules about hand washing sinks and toilets, and they have specific rules that they have to follow for outdoor nature-based center toilets and sinks. Rule 8152 was moved and given a new rule number, and it was also amended, and this is regarding heating and temperature. Subrule 2 states the indoor temperature must not be less than 68 degrees Fahrenheit in child use areas at a point 2 feet above the floor. So this has gone up. Previously, the rule stated 65 degrees, and now it's gone up to 68 degrees. Rule 8158 is a new rule, Subrule 3. It states doors opening to the outside must not be propped open. Rule 8161, this was moved and given a new rule number and amendments were made, and it's regarding maintenance of the premises. We're looking at Subrule 8, a lead-based paint inspection and lead hazard risk assessment along with lead hazard risk assessment summary form provided by the department must be completed by a certified lead risk assessor on all centers built before 1978. The assessment must be completed for all child use areas including any outdoor play areas. Any lead hazards identified must be addressed, and lead clearance must be performed, and the results provided to the department before issuance of the original license. The results of the assessment or assessments and the summary form or forms must be maintained on file at the center. Rule 8161 Subrule 9 is a new rule, and it's regarding additions to buildings that were constructed after 1978. If a center is located in a new addition to a building constructed before 1978, and the older part of the building is never used by children in care, the center is exempt from Subrule 8 of this rule if the center submits a statement to the department that the part of the building constructed before 1978 will not be used by children in care. So we have completed sections 1 and 2. You'll see that there are more videos available covering the other sections. Thank you for taking the time to go over these sections with me, and have a great day.